Well, hello there. It's Mikey Wine, aka Gundamonium Works. Welcome in. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever, wherever you're tuning in from. Playing around with a new camera. As you can see, it's my face. It's my face. And but we're still working on this. Is part 9 of the resin Tomahawk build. So we're going to switch over. I'm a little under the weather, so I'm going to stumble through this. The show must go on. So here we are, and let me switch over to camera position 3. That'll give me bench here. We can mess around and see that. Hey, what's up, Nick? Hey, Ken. Luca's up. How you doing, Luca? Anyway, we're just messing around with my new, well, it's not my new setup. I'm borrowing this camera from a friend at work, and let me try it out. I'm probably going to end up buying one for myself because it is quite nice that I can switch back and forth. I can also do other things like we can zoom in like this. Whoop. Ooh, check that out. Pretty cool. So now I don't have to worry about trying to hold stuff right up against the camera. And I've saved a couple of camera positions to help me, so I can work better. That's get a haircut, huh? I just did, man. I just did. Like I said, I'm not doing 100%, so I'm going to fight my way through this broadcast. But thanks, Nick. Yeah, it's pretty nice. It's kind of pricey, but it's got a full motion gimbal on it, and it'll even track. You can have facial tracking. It'll track you if you're around the room. That's kind of nice, but when I turned on tracking, it kind of it tracks like the top of my face more, and that doesn't quite get my chin. So I decided to just save a camera. Here, I'll show you. What the hell? Let's screw around with it. So I'll go back to position 2. This is me, and if we do face tracking, okay. So now, it's gonna follow me around. But as you can see, it kind of focuses up here. It doesn't quite get down here because of the way it's mounted. So rather than do that, I just took that off and saved the camera position here. So now it's more centered on my face. But then if I go down to the bench, it goes here. But then I'm kind of reaching out in front of me to get in front of the camera. So I saved another position a little bit further up there. I can read the numbers. What does that say? I can read the numbers at the bottom of the mat, so it's pretty good. Yeah. Well, wait till you see some of the close-ups. I'm going to show you some of the mecha decals that I put on this kit, and you can actually read the mecha decals because, I mean, granted, StreamYard only lets you use 720p maximum for free. If you want 1080, you got to pay for a premium service, which I'm not going to do. I'm already paying for this one, so anyway. Wow, that's a nice feature. Yeah, it is pretty cool. And then, like I said, I can show, like if I wanted to show off, say the cockpit, for instance, it looks pretty good here, but then I can just, we'll bring up the zoom feature here. It takes a second for these controls to come up, and then zoom in. That way you guys can all see the cockpit nice and clean. So I've done quite a bit of work since last week. Last week I was still putting decals on there. Everything's been clear coated, sealed, and flat coated. All the missiles are installed. The cockpit's installed. The hatch is mounted. There's decals on the back. And on the side of the side of the cockpit here, there's a escape right there, escape hatch decal right there. And then all the missiles, of course, had those warning rings that I put on the front of each one of the missiles. So, and then the legs, there's decals on the front, the rear. But what I've been starting to do this week is the weathering portion of it. And what I'm going to do first is I wanted to show this zoom feature here that we can see the entire Like, see, there's a decal there, a warning decal. Let me bring it up full zoom here. Whoop. Okay. Now flip it over so it's legible. There you go. That is a Mecha decal. In fact, you can even see one of the rivets that I replaced. It's that nice looking bolt at the bottom there, the bottom of the screen. One of those is a bolt. One of them was just shaved off and missing in the mold, so I went ahead and put a replacement bolt rivet back on. So all the decals are done. Everything's sealed, like I said. We're starting weathering. One of the things I started to do was the feet, and I always start at the bottom. And I'll show you a difference between, let me zoom back out here. This is way too close. So go back out to about there. The difference between the front, or excuse me, a weathered foot and not weathered foot. So what I started with is I did chipping first, which you can see the chipping on there. There's those are all hand painted chips using Mr. Color number 41, which is a red brown. And then I went over that with some of the 203, which is a super metallic color silver. And it kind of gives it like bare metal look to some of those, to highlight some of those deeper chips. And then I started going over that with the oil brushers, and you can see there's a lot of grease and slime back there behind where those bearings would be in the heel joint, some rust. So here's the difference between weathered and not weathered. Let's see if I can get the glare off of it. There we go. So clean and not clean. This was before and this was after. And this will be the left foot. I've had these labeled because I started to fit everything together a certain way. So that's what we're going to do tonight. I'm going to start doing the right foot. I've already finished this one pretty much, using various things like I said, hand painted chipping, some paint colors here. Let me zoom all the way back out again. I've got super metallic, the silver 41, some flat white, and then I've got some of the basic Tamiya Weathermasters pastels. Excuse me. And then I've also got some MIG. This is from a set called the Spaceship Weathering Set. It's got a Starship wash, a Starship streaking color, which is like this would be nice for a lot of that stuff I was doing underneath. It's kind of like a greasy looking oil stain, and then a pigment, metal slag pigment, if we need that. And then I also have a set of oil brushers, which is like oil paints on a brush built in. This is the Starship, Starship color set. So it comes with Starship Filth, black, and white. And that's all I used on this whole thing. So I haven't used really the MIG, this set yet. I haven't used any of these, but I think I'm going to open up the bottle of the streaking here, and I might try that on this other foot and see. But first step is to just start the chipping. And it's a tedious little process, but you have to start somewhere. It takes a while to do each piece, and then I'll gradually. Oh, one of the things I want to show off too before I get started. This just came in. It came in on my birthday yesterday, and this is the Tenjin's first. It's the Artistry of Tenjin, which is the if you don't know who Tenjin is, Hidetaka Tenjin is the artist that does most of the box artwork for all of the Macross model kits that you find on the market. They're, from Hasegawa to Wave to Bandai, all of them. And it's really cool. The first half of this book is all original Macross, and then the second half is all on the movie slide. So this is all like Daedalus, Prometheus, all the original. And that's cool about these pictures. Like this is from the actual SDF-1 model kit. At the bottom, it tells you what the scale was, what year it came out, what model kit it was for, what the manufacturer was, whether it be Bandai or Hasegawa or Wave. But it's all these, and if you own any of these model kits, you'll recognize these drawings. Now, one of the cool things I found in here was this. I just marked it so I could see it. So yeah, this is what I'm working on. So I'm going to use this. This is a nice, really nice picture of a very weather-beaten Tomahawk. So I'm going to use this as reference while I do the weathering on the model kit I'm actually building. So I think it's kind of cool. It's got everyone, the riflemen, the phalanx. Oops. And then you get back here and you got all this is from the model, the box art for the 148 Super Strike. I have 3 more of these in my backlog. It's got anything you can imagine. It's all in here. Every single box art going all the way back. So yeah, cool. It came in on my birthday too. That was a nice little surprise. I was glad it showed up so early, considering I didn't think it was going to get here. It came from Japan, but I paid for the extra shipping to get it here a little bit earlier. Anyway, excuse me, I'm getting a little raspy. Another thing that came in recently was my 2 pilot figures. I actually only ordered 1 pilot figure from Shapeways. They delivered 2, so I'll take 2. I only paid for 1. And this is the same pilot figure that I had printed for me for the last Valkyrie project I did at 148 scale. But I'll be painting it. I'll probably be painting it very similar, if not the same, as I did that pilot. But yeah, these are pretty nice prints. The only thing that difference was this time around, there was a higher resolution available than the first time that I had printed one of these, and or had it printed, I should say. And so I paid for the higher print quality, and so far it looks good. I haven't primed it yet. That'll be the real test, is when I actually hit it with some primer and see what it looks like. Excuse me. Anyway, like I said, still a little raspy, but I'm gonna fight through this. Fight through it. Okay, so let's get started. I'm gonna start with the brown chipping. Art books are awesome since they often have the dynamic action shots that you would have. Yeah, exactly. Look, that's so true. You see those? I'll put that on the screen. You see those? Like you want to pause it and bring it up on screen so you can make a note or make reference or do a drawing or something like that. I wasn't sure what I was getting. There's 2 versions of this book, and unfortunately the other one, the culture version, was sold out, and it was quite a bit more money. I don't know what's included in it, but I'm happy with what I got, because Tenjin is a really awesome artist, especially for all the Macross stuff. And so it's nice to see those box art. I've owned a lot of those kits. Most of those kits that are in that book I've actually owned. So oops, I must have just took that off screen. All right, so now we see what before and after cut looks like. Let's get started. And this is number 41, red brown. It's a flat color. So if I wasn't going to seal anything up at the end of this, I wouldn't have to necessarily, because this is already a flat color. But I'll have to go back over and seal all of my weathering stuff at the end and give one last final coat of flat coat. Now I'm just randomly creating shipping. So I'm going along, especially the feet, because the feet are going to take the most beating as far as everything that, stepping on things, running into things, clambering over things. So there's going to be quite a bit of that paint loss on, these areas. So the hard thing is trying not to. I want to do a lot of weathering, but it's easy to go overboard. So you have to kind of be careful. It's easy. You can always add more, but I think I shared this story the last time I was talking about weathering and how I was going to approach this project. Because the first time I did, hang on, Lucas got something to say. It says, I've been working on building a Lego minifig scale mock, a big mod location from Apex Legends, and I've had a pain in time finding good reference pics. Yeah, it's tough sometimes. I'm not familiar with a lot of the Lego stuff, so I can imagine it would be, some of that stuff can be hard to find. But anyway, I was getting back to what I was talking about. I was sharing my experience. The first time I did this kind of chipping, and I actually used rather than a painting, I was using like a pen and just marking these little chips and stuff like that. And I did all these pieces individually, and it looked great by itself. And then when I assembled the whole kit, it looked ridiculous. In fact, I had a friend of mine comment, and he goes, "Yeah, it looks great if he was doing jumping jacks in an asteroid field." Because I just had every single surface just covered in chips, and it was just like, oh god. So, lesson learned. That was the first time I'd ever tried that kind of weathering, and boy, did I blow it. Although it was still good enough to place in a contest, but it was just like, oh yeah, it was bad. It must have been a rookie pilot. Yeah, maybe. It's definitely a rookie model builder for sure. I'm also going to be drawing in with the brush just some scratches, like this, like a straight line. You can kind of see that there. There will be surface scratches too, but when I go back over it with the silver, that's when it really highlights those areas. It really starts to look more realistic. Then one of the things to think about when doing this kind of chipping is you got to think about scale. Because this thing about this pilot is a 1/48 scale pilot, so he's about, I would say, just a little over an inch tall as far as the actual height of the figure. So you think about how big these chips are. Some of these would be as big as his fist if you did a really big chunk of paint. So the smaller the scale kit, like if you go up to 100, 1/100, 1/44, you got to be careful as to the size of your chipping, because it would be way too big or less realistic, I think, if you started doing massive chipping on something that's such a small scale. I've even added a little bit of that color too to some of the bolt heads and stuff like that. Because think about it, this is a machine it's going to be serviced. There's going to be, the bolts are painted like a lot of times, like say like a big piece of construction equipment. When it's fresh off the factory, it's all nice and painted nice and yellow, orange, whatever color. But as those parts get serviced and bolts get removed and put back on, the paint gets chipped off of those bolts, and they're not pristine and painted anymore. They'll get rusty. Let's see that metal from underneath. Most of this is of course on the edges. There will be some chipping in the open areas, but the edges are where most of the damage takes place. So those are the surfaces that are going to get scratched more often. I'm not doing too much on the bottoms because the bottom of the feet I'm not really going to see, so I'm not going to waste my time doing that. But I will do a little bit, any area that you can see from a standing position. I'm gonna do some weathering, but I'm not going to do all that, spend all that time doing the bottoms when they're really not going to be. I haven't graduated from painting my gunplay yet. I tried panel lining, but not painting. Well, that's a start, That's awesome. Panel lining is, you probably noticed this then. When you first did your first panel line, you realize how much it kind of light, it brightens up the overall look of the kit, right? Because now you're providing some definition. You're seeing those lines are highlighting those areas a little bit more than what would normally be seen, and so cool. But that's all right, I used to hand paint my panel lines because I used to hand paint everything. I never airbrushed before. Angel's here. He remembers that the first time I tried airbrushing, we were at a contest and they had an airbrush demo. And I said, all right, I'll give it a shot, because I shied away from airbrushing thinking it was just so difficult. I was afraid to try. And turns out it's actually not that hard. It's fun. And that year I bought myself an airbrush for Christmas. The rest is history. All right, so I want to make sure these are also symmetrical, that I'm not adding a ton more chipping to one foot as versus the other one. Got to make sure they're all, they all look like the same. And that's a little bit, it can be challenging too when you're doing everything separate like this. Forgive me if I don't talk as much as I normally do. My throat's a little choppy. These look like little service hatches, so they're going to be scratched up from being removed or panels being taken off and reinstalled. Anywhere you got stuff rubbing together. Yeah. I'm really going to add a lot to the front of the toe, the front of the foot, because that's really the part that's always digging into the ground and getting damage to it. Luca's watching us from Twitch. Got a few people on YouTube, Facebook. Welcome in, wherever you guys are watching from. I appreciate each and every one of you. All right, so here's the the beginnings of this. You can see the brown going on. And then it's going to be a combination of all these layers of things that create the final weathered look to it. So that's why this process takes a while, because it depends on how deep you want to go, how much weathering you're going to apply, how long it takes, because I'm using probably 3-4 layers worth of stuff just to get the final result that I'm coming up with. Need some water. So I added a few Mecha decals to this. All the UN Spacey stuff and the basic macro stuff, those came with the kit, but I added a couple on each side of the foot. Also, the UN Spacey ones on the cannons here, those were extras that I had left over from 148 Valkyrie kit. And then I added a couple Mecha decals to the front hatches here. Those say panel release locks, and it has a little tab where those would be. So just here and there, not too many. Just wanted to stay within, what the traditional Macross markings would be, but also just a little bit extra to add some realism to it. What's up, Nick? I missed it earlier. Are you using any oils for weathering? Yes. So far, I'm just using the oil brushers that I have. I have 3. I haven't used the white color yet on this. I may use it for some kind of highlighting, but I've been using primarily it's the Starship Filth and the black. That was what I pretty much did all of the. You can see like behind the heels here. I figured there would be a nice big fat bearing in there or something, that's got a lot of grease and oil in it, and there's going to be oil leaks and stuff like that. So that's why I primarily gunked up those areas behind the heel there, and a little bit around where the ankle is going to attach. So I want it to look pretty grimy. Everybody should be asking, where's George at? Where's George tonight? He's usually popping in. I haven't seen him yet tonight, unless he snuck in and I missed it. So I like this camera, although it is a bit pricey, but I think it's nice to be able to zoom in and have those other features like that. especially for doing a lot of the close-up things I used. And plus, my old camera was just it's just a basic Microsoft Livecam web camera. It had focus issues. Like it would autofocus, but sometimes it would either focus real quick, and other times it would just take forever, or it wouldn't focus. It would just stay blurry, and yeah, it just got to the point where. And as I evolved with this process of doing live streams and stuff like that, it's like it's time to upgrade and maybe get something different, something nicer, something that makes it a little bit easier to do the broadcast, but also provide you guys with some nice views. Like, for instance, I'll do this again while we got you here. Bring up the zoom function. I don't need to go very close. Just like if I even, this is 50%. I mean, that's pretty damn close, but now you guys can see up close the chipping on just this part of the foot. And then on top of this, when this brown is dry, then I will be adding the silver to it. Now a lot of that gets dulled down. I'll show you. Actually, let me zoom back in. I'll show you the silver on this foot. But again, some of that gets toned down. That's why I'm not worried about using too much of that. You can see like these bright areas along the edge. That's some of that silver paint. But because of all of the pastels and stuff and the oils on top of that, it tones that way down. Still gives you that little glint of metal, but it's not so stark that it doesn't look right, you know. There's a little touch on the inside here, and then this front panel here, on the front of the foot especially. Again, that's the parts that are going to get beat up the most. Everything is kind of coming up from the ground up. So as I get higher up on the kit, you know, further up the leg, eventually a lot of that stuff's going to, the dusty colors are going to minimize because they're not so close to the ground. I think that's to try to make it as real as possible. Most of the collection of dirt and grime and stuff is going to be on the feet and the legs. But as you get higher up, the stuff that's remains would be, or might be, you know, grease and stuff that's in the actual suit itself, not from something it picked up in the environment. I wasn't sure if I was going to do the show tonight. I was thinking I might cancel because I actually stayed home today. I was not feeling well. I've been struggling all week. I started kind of feeling crappy on Monday. I went home early on Monday. Tuesday, I managed to work the whole day, but I was done. By the time I got finished Tuesday, I was feeling horrible. So ended up staying home today, and we'll see how I feel in the morning. But if I don't get any better, I'm going to have to go buy some heavier meds, some cold medicine or something. Not COVID, thank God, but just a cold. You know, it's been a while since I've been sick with anything. We've been fortunate. I think it's kind of funny since COVID. Either our bodies our immune systems are stronger, or maybe it's the vaccinations, you know, stuff like that. But it just seems like I don't get sick as often as I used to. And that might have something to do with the environment I work in too, and stress levels and things. You know, if you're higher stress, obviously you run the risk of getting sick more often. But It's been a while. It's been a minute since I've been sick, and this isn't too bad. It's enough to. All right, Nick. Have a good one. Thanks for stopping in, buddy. I just just kind of stuffed up. I had a hard time breathing last night when I was sleeping too. That was another thing. I just was all plugged up, couldn't breathe. All right, we're pretty much done with. This would be the right leg. Take airborne. Yes, I have been taking Zycam actually. Thanks though, I appreciate that. I don't know if we have any airborne. I have Zycam though, but I'm gonna have to go buy some maybe. Anywho, just cruising here. Some. It's not going to be too much chipping in some areas. That's another thing you have to consider is like the orientation of the leg, of certain other moving parts. Where would these areas be even exposed to chipping? So, you can easily go around all these edges and just chip the shit out of them. But how would that really happen in the real world? So, try to minimize where you're applying the chips because it has to make sense to tell the story properly. It's still got to make sense. Moving on to the other side. I take berry flavored with hot apple cider, apple crown royal. Damn, that sounds like a great drink for when you're sick. See, I don't have all that stuff. You forget I've got a monitor here watching everything I eat and drink. I don't have that kind of stuff laying around. Let's see, we got a hockey game tonight. I think Kings play at 7 o'clock. So I'm wearing my Kings hoodie. That's what I'm all about. I like your idea though. I'd like to try that. You're gonna have to bring me some someday. When I'm not feeling good, and I'll try your cold medicine, your berry flavor with the apple cider. That sounds great. Sounds amazing, actually. Stir this up a little bit. As it sits, eventually it starts to separate a little bit, so you got to kind of give it a stir every now and then. I think tonight I should be far enough along here where even if I'm not, I think I'll allow myself enough time to do a little bit of that silver paint so you guys can see the second stage of the chipping. And there's even some cases where I'll use 3 colors. Actually, no, it's typically 2, but you know, the brown is this brown is representing the primer underneath the sandy brown paint. So, you know, as the destroid gets used and the paint gets chipped off, you know, there's that metal. And then if you go deeper than the primer, you're down to bare metal. That's where the silver comes in. Berry airborne, it helps with cold and relaxes the body. Oh yeah, yeah, especially with the cider, a hot cider. That sounds like it would. Sounds like a great drink just to kind of sit and watch TV and sip on. Yeah, maybe I'll go get some tomorrow. We'll see. We shall see. Oh, and thanks everybody for the birthday wishes. I really appreciate it. So just continuing along here, working on this is the right foot, so this is more of the inside edges. You know, you might see some difference between left and right on the foot because this is the right foot. So this is the outside, this is the inside. So there might not be quite as much, I mean, maybe not as much chipping on the inside just because it's not running into those things around the outside of the, you know, this where it stands, you know, as the normal stance of the destroid. So it might be minimized a little bit. The toe, of course, the front of the foot, yeah, that's going to be chewed up, but maybe not quite as much on the edges of the inside, unless you're just clambering over, you know, chunks of concrete and who knows what else this thing would be walking over during its normal use. But oh yeah, happy birthday! Thanks, Julius. Thanks, appreciate it. It was yesterday, but that's okay. My own brother didn't even remember. I had to give him shit for it today. Sent him a message. I'm like, hey, what the fuck, man? He's like, what? Did I miss something? I said, what day is it? And he says, oh, sorry, man. Happy birthday. I've been on the phone. I've been working phones. I've been on phone calls and meetings all day. This is the first chance I've had to check my phone. I said, well, that's good because my birthday was yesterday. So what's your excuse for yesterday? I didn't forget his damn birthday. Anyway, that's all right. My brother's in his own world. And the other one will. Excuse me. Sorry, guys. A little under weather today, so apologize for coughing, making loud More ganache for us. Yep. That's true. That's grenache, not ganache, but unless you're talking about chocolate, and then it's ganache. Just continuing doing the first stage of chipping on this foot, right foot. If anybody has just joined in, wondering what we're doing, hand painting. You don't talk about Bruno. Yeah. Yeah, no. Not until everything's done and dusted. Then we'll talk about it all day long. Right now we'll just leave it alone. All right. We're at 650. I'm gonna have to add a little bit to definitely the bottom here, because the bottom is the bottom. It's just going to take the beating, most of the brunt of everything. So there's going to be quite a bit along these edges. Especially the heels. Nice part about this lacquer paint is it dries quick enough that once I get to a section where another section I can handle, I can actually handle the piece by something I've already painted because it's dry already. Getting a little stuffed up. And these heels actually stick out past the outside of the main part of the front of the foot, so there's a little bit more of those edges exposed for taking damage, getting chipped because of that lip that's sticking out. All right, this is looking pretty good so far. And once we get done with the brown, then we'll open up the silver and do step 2. So if you guys got a question about what's going on, put it in the chat. I'll answer it for you. Last week we had a lot of guys talking, and I actually missed a few of the messages because everything was popping in so quick I couldn't keep up. I wasn't looking up often enough. Trying to keep an eye on it this time, though, for sure. Yeah, there we go. All right, a little bit more on the outside. Should be a couple here and there, not much. All right. Looks pretty good. All right. I think we're pretty good. Yeah. Stick with that now. The silver step takes less time because of just highlighting some of those deeper scratches and chips. So that won't take as long. All right. And this is number 203. Super Metallic 2. Super, this is called Super Iron. I said silver, but it's a little bit darker than straight up bright silver. I didn't want something super bright. So this is a little more of a grayish. It still has that metallic, nice metallic look to it, but it's a little bit darker. Right. We'll start over here again. Now I'm going to do is just touch on some of those areas that would be like a deeper chip, and I'm not covering up all the brown. I'm just covering up a little bit of it, like the areas that would go deeper, so it looks like a deeper scratch or chip. So I'm going to do an example here, and then I'll show everybody. I'll zoom in so everybody can see that. It doesn't take much, just a tiny bit here and there. A little bit more here, and then I'll show everybody. Okay. All right, so let me zoom in and show you what this looks like with the super iron color on it. So let's go. We'll go up to. Fuck it. Let's go all the way up. Okay. So now you see there's just a few of those areas around where the other chips are, to make it look like, you know, a deeper chip. And again, that will be toned down once I get to the excuse me, once I get to the start using the pastels and the oils. It's going to really tone down that bright metallic color, so it won't look nearly as, you know, I still want it to look used. Obviously, it doesn't. You know, the metal, the bare metal, wouldn't be so clean. You know, it'd be a little bit dirty. So, what do you guys think of this camera so far? Liking it? Like what I can do, the different things I can do with it? I think it's going to work out nice. It's a nice investment. It's about $300 for the damn thing. I'm going to see if I time this right. He's going to let me use this for about a month, so I'm going to be able to use this for the next few broadcasts. But Black Friday coming around, I'm going to see if it shows up on a Black Friday deal. I might be able to score a good price for it. Pick it up then. We'll see. It's $300 on Amazon. There are some that are more expensive by about $20, $320, $340, you know, $330, that kind of thing. But they all pretty much do the same, and it's pretty compact. Angel came over yesterday and saw it. It's kind of cool, because when you look at the images, like the stock images and photos from the product images, it looks bigger than it is. And you open the box, like, oh, isn't that cute? You know, a little tiny camera on a gimbal. So yeah, let me know what you think. If you like like what I'm being able to do with it so far by, you know, being able to zoom in and or if you just don't give a shit, then don't worry about it. So not every one of these initial, you know, the brown that I implied will get some of the silver treatment. This is only to try to highlight what would be some of those deeper scratches. The rest of them will stay the way they are. And some of them are just going to get a tiny touch in the center, you know, the rest will be that brown color. I've used this technique before. I did a couple of Warhammer commissions for another friend. Warhammer, as you know, if you don't know, their stuff is typically painted to look like it's just been through hell and back. You know, there tons of chipping, tons of weathering effect, and so knowing that, going in, I was like, all right, I'm chipping this shit out. You know, I'm gonna beat the crap out of these kits I'm doing for them, make them look like they're just in horrible shape. You know, And so I did a lot of this, but I used what I did first is the color I used like a blue, the weathering pencils, the AK weathering pencils, because that was the lighter color of what I had put on the kit, so it looked like a scratch. You know, if you ever see like dark paint and you scratch it, the scratch looks lighter than the base color, just by the nature of paint getting scratched. So the light blue worked well on that darker blue. But this is a little bit different, being a lighter color. I have to use a darker chipping color so it kind of looks like primer. That's another reason for using this red brown, because it kind of does look like a primer color. All right, a couple more here. I hate being sick. I really do. But I guess as colds go, this one isn't as bad. At least right now it isn't. We'll see if it takes hold. I've been hitting it with Zycam, which is like kind of like an airborne. It's a little dissolvable, put in your mouth kind of thing, and it's immune booster kind of thing. I just hate it. And you start feeling that, get that itch in your throat, like, everybody knows it. It's like, oh, that doesn't feel right. It's like, damn it. All right, I'm almost done with the outside of the foot. Got a little more to do down here. Yeah, it's pretty good. All right, well, maybe a little touch right here. All right, I'll move around to the front of the other side here. All right. This step doesn't take quite as long, although it's still Still take your time, but a little less involved because we're not covering so much area. We're just doing little bits to highlight some of those areas that would take a better beating, take a bigger beating. I mean. Okay, doke. Move it around from the front, and I'm on the top now. All right, we're almost done with that step. We got a little bit more on the heel here, inside heel. And don't worry if you think you put too much of that silver on. As you can always, it'll tone down quite a bit once you start using the pastels over it. I always, at this point, the next step after this is using the Tamiya Weathering Masters and adding rust and mud, using the mud color, even though it's not mud. But hang on, I gotta. That big hair there stuck in the clear coat. Those will tone down this a lot. As soon as you go over that with some rust or that dirt, it's way less noticeable. So it's not, it's okay to yeah, there we go. Okay, a couple more touches here. Okay. Yeah, next step. It's actually, it goes in waves here. So I'm going to start with the rust. I'm putting some of that on. Then I'm going to go back over it with the mud color. Then I come back and re-highlight some of the rust areas that might have gotten blended away a little bit with the mud. So this is set B. Has soot, snow, and rust. I just bought a bunch of these little applicators. Let's see, I got some more here. Grab a fresh one. The ones that come with the kits. There's only one, and they typically get worn out pretty quick. Oops, I'll just drop it. Grab a couple of these. There we go. All right, a couple of fresh ones here. And we'll start just adding some. This is primarily too on those, excuse me, those silver areas. I'm also looking at the contours of this foot. So where if there was runoff or liquids, or water, rust, whatever it is, what direction would it be going, running down the foot? And that's something to consider when you start applying these pastels is or any kind of streaking effects is you want to make sure you go in line, with what direction would it be running off at, if it was rust or water or whatever it was. Ooh, that sounds like the start of the hockey game. So I always try to keep that in mind when I'm doing these streaking effects, is to make sure to run it in it or do it in a direction that's believable to. Now this is just initially just putting a little bit of rust on some of these areas where those chips will go, will have some runoff, or there'll be a little bit of a streak there from the environment and stuff. This is going to be done in multiple layers, so it's okay to keep it. These pastels rub off pretty easily. They rub on easily, but they also come off. You can blend them away pretty easily too, especially if you don't like what you see. You can take some odorless, like the AK enamel thinner or some kind of enamel thinner on a brush, and it'll take it right off. So you can actually remove it completely away if you're not happy with your result. It's not hard to get rid of. If you're trying to get rid of it by using an applicator, that's a little bit harder. But if you do use like the thinners, yeah, it'll come right off. And so you can kind of see the streaking down the outside of the foot there. There's going to be quite a bit more of that mud color added to the bottom, because that's where most of the dust and dirt collects, is on the bottom of the foot. And then once I do that, then I go back over with the rust and re-highlight those areas that still might show rust through that layer of dirt. And then after that is when I do the oils. So this is just initially trying to see what, the streaking and what it's going to look like, where the rust is, whether that looks good or not, and then start adding layers to it until I get what I want, until I get the effect I want. This is the same thing I did with the tank. Abrams, I used this as well, even though it wouldn't necessarily be rust, but it was the right color to make it look like that kind of a rain streaking, that desert type, streaking effects. I used the same technique, but I did use a lot more dry pigments on that than I will with this. So obviously there's not going to be that much dirt, dust around in space. There'll be some, but it's not going to be a bunch of accumulated dirt on anything, especially if they're out of atmosphere. All right, so I'm almost done with that first initial layer of. Oops, a little bit on the inside here. That's right, there's chipping on the inside too. Okay, that's where I get these little guys. I just put a little clamp on here. This way I'm not handling my, the stuff I just put on. I don't want to rub it off with my fingers, so. All right, that looks pretty good. Okay. I'm going to open up set A, which is sand, light sand, and mud. And we're just going to put, I think this was mud. It's mud now. This is where the whole bottom edge is going to get. I'm actually going to go the opposite direction. So before, I was going down with those streaks. With the mud, I'm going up from the foot, from the bottom up. Because I want the dirt, this is like dirt accumulation, whatever dirt there is, but it's also a discoloration along the bottom edge of this whole foot. And when it blends together with that rust, it really gives a nice effect. You can kind of see that a little bit better. I'll do the same all the way around. Anywhere from the bottom of the foot up. It just kind of muddies it down a little bit and makes it just looks worn and used. And that's what I want. I want it to look like that worn effect. Oops. There we go. Yeah, it looks good. It's not black. If you use soot, it'd be a little too dark. So this mud color kind of has a grayish tone to it when it's blended with these other colors. But you'll also notice a lot of that silver that silver color I put on for the chipping is toned down tremendously by this mud color. Gotta get in there, in between with these the heel and the front of the foot. I got to get in between there. There we go. You can always add more. If you need more, just darken it up, blend it out. We're getting close to wrapping this one up, guys. Thanks for staying with me, even though I was not feeling too hot. Finish up this muddy color, and that should be about it. A little bit on the outside. I still have to do all the oils and stuff too after this. This is just the third step to this process, and I have to do that with every piece of this kit. And I think once I get most of the legs done, I'll assemble that, maybe assemble the lower torso. I'm still trying to figure out how to mount the torso. Angel and I were talking about it last night, and I may end up using a big magnet or something like that to hold the torso in place. That way it can also be turned and posed a little bit, but still I've got some pretty large rare earth magnets, the big neodymium magnets. I think I can maybe use one of those, build something up, because this hole where the torso goes is pretty deep. It's pretty large. There's a lot of space, including the other side where the torso comes down. There's a lot of room there. So I could do something inside fairly easily, I think. All right, I think we're almost done with the mud. Just getting all the lower areas of this foot kind of covered in it. Okay, so without doing the oils, I'll zoom in here again, and we can see what this looks like now. Wait for the zoom. Come on, there we go. This one's zoom in. So now you can kind of see with that blending from the bottom down. There's still some of that rust there, but it kind of blended nicely with that brown from the bottom up. It tones down those silver, the metal bits that are coming through. It's not quite as stark in the front. And I'll add a little bit of when I do the oils. We'll add a little bit more depth there, and that will cover some of this other stuff up. I could actually do a little bit more here on these edges. It's actually a nice touch, it just kind of darkens up, almost like adds a pre-shade to it. You can do the same to this side. It just, by going over those sharp edges with just highlighting just a little bit of color. Yeah, that looks nice. Yeah. All right, and we'll continue with this throughout the week, and next week we'll be doing the next show will be weathering part 2, part 9 of the series, but it's part 2 of weathering. So with that, I'm going to call this one a night. Try to maybe eat something here. I'm not sure. Still not feeling 100%. We'll see. We'll see what happens in the morning. How I feel, whether or not I'm going to go to work. We shall see. But let's go. Let's see what camera 2, I think, was there. Bring it on up. There we go. Hey, guys. So anyway, thanks everybody for coming in. I appreciate you all joining me, even though I'm kind of under the weather. But we're going to wrap it up. Thanks for joining. Be good humans. Keep doing what you do. And we'll talk to you soon. We'll see you next time, guys. Peace out.